In the G protein receptor system, the coupled receptors are distributed across the entire surface cell membrane. The first messenger is a signal molecule called a ligand that binds to the G protein coupled receptor on the outside of the cell membrane. This then changes the conformation of the receptor in the cytoplasmic side of the cell. The next step of the system activates the G protein, which bonds to a phosphate, converting GDP to GTP. This step activates adenylyl cyclase. Here, adenylyl cyclase catalyzes the conversion of ATP to cyclin AMP, or CAMP. CAMP moves through the cytoplasm to bond to the inactive enzyme. Once bonded, CAMP activates the enzyme, which creates a cellular response. This cellular response travels to the endoplasmic reticulum and causes it to release calcium ions.
Initially, the tyrosine-kinase receptors are inactive and exist as two separate units. When a signaling protein binds to the tyrosine-kinase receptors, the receptors become activated and merge together to form a dimer. The tyrosine will cause ATPs within the cell to divide into ADPs and phosphate groups. After this, the intracellular tyrosine molecules will pick up the phosphate groups and act like docking platforms for the inactive intracellular relay proteins. When the inactive proteins bind to the phosphorylated tyrosine molecules, they become activated and will send a signal to the endoplasmic reticulum, causing the release of calcium ions.
T cells have T cell receptors, or TRCs. These TRCs are antigen-specific receptors. Antigens, for example, are bacterium. So, in the immune system, an antigen will bond with the major histocompatibility complex, or an MHC cell, and when these MHC cells with an antigen are detected, the T signals off an immune system response, so it'll send signals to other cells such as B cells, which then will create lymphocytes or other immune system responses, which will engulf the bacterium through phagocytosis. Hep C, also known as HCV, is a virus that attacks the immune system in the human body. An HCV, as it is an antigen, will bind through the T cell through its antigen-specific receptors. Through this, it sends a signal to the nucleus of the T cell to replicate the HCV's RNA. Because the T cell understands its RNA, it is no longer signaled as disease, so it is no longer noticed as a virus by the immune system response. So this blocks the functionality of T cells, and they are no longer able to signal to other cells. What this means is that the immune system response is on, but it is unable to attack and get rid of the Hep C virus, as there is no signal from the T cell to alert the rest of the immune system. So they know something's there, but they can't fight it. Some symptoms of Hep C are liver inflammation and cirrhosis of the liver, which is the dying of liver tissue and the scarring of that tissue, yellow eyes and skin, jaundice, arthritis, and vascular issues, and all of these are related to the liver. So some treatments for this is antiviral medication or a liver transplant. If it comes to the cirrhosis of the liver, then unfortunately the liver cannot be saved and a liver transplant must be used. And there are two stages, acute and chronic. Acute lasts about 6 months after infection, and it can be treated. If it goes to chronic, you usually cannot treat it with medication, and it will eventually lead to a liver transplant. And unfortunately, about 75 to 80% of those affected will go on to develop chronic Hep C.